What are the challenges specific to women and the microfinance industry as the world struggles for economic recovery? Joining us now is Ellen Iskenderian, the president and CEO of Women's World Banking. Welcome to you, Ellen. It's great to have you on set today.
Thanks,
First, talk about microfinance, what it is, who it helps, and how easy or difficult it is right now for people, entrepreneurs looking for this kind of financing.
Thanks so much for having us. Microfinance is the provision of very small loans, often literally single digits, double digits, to entrepreneurs who are starting up businesses, primarily in developing countries. Women's World Banking works with 40 microfinance institutions around the world in 28 developing countries, and our clientele is 75% women. We feel strongly that helping women entrepreneurs is the best way to have long-term intergenerational change. Women tend to spend their money on educating their children, healthcare for their children, improving their housing, and these are the kinds of things that over the long term lead a family out of poverty.
You know, our eyes are so focused on Wall Street and big financial institutions and lending, and obviously we're coming out of the credit crisis and lessons learned. Why is this segment of the financial industry so important to the broader economy?
Well, this really is the only sector that's serving, in many countries, the vast unbanked population. And when you think this is the only source of credit or financial services that many of these people have access to, we're starting to see the industry now move into the area of savings, because the poor do save sometimes up to 40% of their monthly income, but have never had any place other than under the mattress to put their money. And microfinance institutions provides them a way into the financial sector.
And again, the conference is geared, and your organization is geared to specifically helping women. What specific challenges do they face? And are you seeing more and more examples of women having a harder time accessing microfinancing?
That's actually a great question. The industry has become increasingly commercial. Commercial capital, we've seen about $10 billion of commercial capital come into the sector over the last decade. And it has fueled great growth. There's been improvements in corporate governance and transparency of these often very small NGO organizations. But as it has become a more commercial sector, the traditional client base, which has been poor women, has actually declined. And you're seeing fewer women as a percentage of clients being served by microfinance.
So what's an example of a case, a party that's actually been benefited by your organization, put on the right track to acquire this kind of help?
No, that's a lovely question. I always like to talk about a woman named Joyce Wafuko, who was a woman I met in a very rural part of Kenya when I first joined WWB in 2006. And Joyce wanted, lived in this rural area, saw that people were improving their houses, sort of brick by brick, bag of cement by bag of cement, and really had nothing like a hardware store to do this with. And so she wanted to establish a hardware store, and she took all of her savings out of the bank and she went to her family, but she really didn't have much money to build much more than a kiosk, and it didn't sell anything like you've ever seen in a hardware store. It was eggs, tomatoes, and 2x4s. And somewhere she learned about our network member in Kenya, Kenya Women's Finance Trust, who made a $70 loan to her. This was 5 years ago. They gave her some basic bookkeeping and accounting and financial literacy training. And today, she has a revolving line of credit of $5,000. She has a business that employs 25 people. It is a very proper hardware store that you and I would recognize. Her 26th employee is her husband, who just came back from the city where he had to go to find work because there were no jobs in the rural area. She has educated all of her children, and she's putting her sister through graduate school.
That's a lovely story. So, Ellen, you mentioned to me you just introduced JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon and ran over here. So, by the way, I'm extremely flattered that you made the time to come over here. Why does someone like Jamie Dimon want to be involved in this organization?
Well, Women's World Banking is a wonderful organization to be affiliated with, but we've been delighted that JP Morgan has been the sponsor of our conference now 2 years in a row. They have an excellent social sector finance group that really focuses on providing investment capital to these areas where investors are looking for a financial bottom line, but also a social return as well.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to demean the organization, but it seems like he's got a lot on his plate lately with all this financial reform regulation coming through. Ellen Iskenderian, the president and CEO of Women's World Banking, thank you again for making time for us today.
Not at all.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Okay.